Okay. Hey kids, today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite topics in the whole world, YouTubers. But not like fandoms, like introspective discussion of what led an entire generation to perform their personality online, that kind of thing. So you may have noticed that my channel name has changed, and if you're new here, then my channel name used to be Noodlerella, and it's gone. I'm Connie Glynn on everything now. Noodlerella is dead. Rest in peace. Noodlerella was no longer someone I needed. Bye! Excuse me for talking about her in third person. She was no longer someone I resonated with, and even though I had a great 5 years with Noodlerella on this channel, it was time to let her go. And I figured it was a great opportunity to discuss YouTube and the concept of YouTube personalities. There's a lot of video essays on YouTube, but there's not a lot of introspective discussion of what YouTube is, why people started vlogging, what it's all about, why people enjoy it so much. So I want to do that.
Alright, so here we are, one of the
April 23rd, 2005, at 8:27 p.m. PDT, the first ever YouTube video was uploaded, titled Me at the Zoo. It was uploaded by YouTuber's co-founder, Jawad Kirim, under the username Jawad.
And that's pretty much all there is to say.
In just over a year after its birth, online video content became such a huge commodity that Google bought YouTube for a staggering $1.65 billion. 1 year before, in 2004, Facebook was launched, and 1 year after, in 2006, Twitter was founded. Over the course of 3 years, 3 separate online social platforms became active, and these would change the way we interacted with the world pretty much forever. Unless, the apocalypse happens and the internet goes down. We can hope. Now, before we continue, I need you guys to understand that I'm using what happened to Noodlerella as a metaphor for what changed on YouTube and social media in general that meant that YouTube personalities came to an end. Not that they're not around anymore, just that the way they're idolized and interacted with changed, much in the same way that the general vibe of YouTube has changed. Got it? Okay, so the first thing we need to do to understand what happened to Noodlerella is look at what I'm going to call the golden age of YouTube. But here's the problem. There is no golden age of YouTube. YouTube is young and everyone has a personal idea of what the golden age is. And I thought this was kind of fascinating. So I went on Twitter and I asked everyone, in your personal opinion, what would you say is the golden age of YouTube and why? Obviously there were a ton of different answers because this is going to be a personal thing to everyone, but by far the most common answer was between 2012 and 2014. This was by YouTube fans. Generally, YouTubers themselves were saying anywhere before 2011. It's pretty much unanimous that everyone thinks that 2015, 2016 is when it started to fall apart. But what was really fascinating was the reasoning. And this is kind of what I wanted to get from you guys. So I'm going to read off around a bunch of them. Because people were doing it for themselves instead of for views or clout. Before it became a mainstream thing and it was no longer weird to watch YouTubers. I feel like 2012 because that was the pinnacle of happiness in the YouTube community. There wasn't really any drama, and it was one of the more creative years. Everything is so overdone and messy now. 2012 to 2014. It still felt so new and exciting and squeaky clean. And then I picked out 2 of my favorites as well. 2006 to 2008. As it predated the intense commercialization of the service, you could watch weird art videos, pirated TV, personal vlogs. Everything was amateurish and it felt lawless without being sinister. Well before the algorithm nightmare would expose children to deranged content. And then simply, 2013, because it was still kind of new and fresh. Now at first it might not seem obvious what the links are here, but if we break it down, you can gauge a few things from every response. Number 1, a time when YouTubers were normal people. A time before they were rich, before the concept of being a YouTuber could get you rich and famous. People were just making content for fun, for the joy of it, because they wanted to, when they were normal people. Number 2, when it was weird, when YouTube was a platform for the creative unprofessional, when it was for the underdog, and it was kind of weird to watch YouTube videos. Stuff was there to be viewed and not necessarily engaged with. A platform that was for everything and anything that had never had a platform before. And 3, which is by far the most prevalent, when it was new. Based on what people said in the replies, I've made a quick YouTube timeline to try and break down what changed over the years and what really grabbed people's attention and what they resonated with. 2008 to 2010 was the time of creative chaos. We had Potter Puppet Pals, Fred, Bo Burnham, comedy sketches, animations, as well as the other side. It was an illegal streaming service where you could watch TV shows in 3 parts. People were making and posting stuff. Then we started to move into the YouTube personality era. 2011 to 2014 saw the likes of Shane Dawson go from sketch comedian to icon, and the rise of the Glynn team, Zoella, Alfie Days, as well as Tyler Oakley and the British scene. If you were popular on YouTube, you were popular for who you were, not necessarily what you created. created. And 2015 to now, which I'm gonna call the rise of BuzzFeed. We started to see a backlash to personality-driven content, and the most popular content on YouTube now is the straightforward. The harsh opposite being the likes of Logan Paul and shock plus clickbait content. So what happened? Why have we seen a decline in personality-driven content? Not to say that there aren't still popular YouTube personalities, but as we saw in the replies to my tweet, people have started to feel that it's overdone and contrived. 2018 has seen the biggest backlash to this, with people outright turning on previous YouTube personalities that they loved. We have videos like, what happened to insert YouTube personality here, or why so-and-so's career died. Everyone seems to be scrambling for a reason why people have become disinterested and disenfranchised, when I feel like the answer is actually pretty simple. It's not new anymore. When people first turned to YouTube as a platform for diary and whatever vlogging style content they wanted to make between 2009 and 2012, it was new, it was weird, it hadn't been done before. It was the very first time the average person could perform themselves online, that they could perform their own personality. Time writer Joel Stein quite aggressively theorized that growing up with these online media personalities was a curse on the millennial generation. He said that it inspired and encouraged narcissism, materialism, and technology addiction in their ghetto fabulous lives. But I think there's more to be gained from looking at what Bo Burnham, comedian, director, actor, ex-YouTuber, what he said in Make Happy.
Social media, it's just the market's answer to a generation that demanded to perform. So the market said, here, perform everything to each other all the time for no reason.
And that's precisely the thing. When people first started doing it, when YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter emerged, and with it the YouTube personality, it was new. It was our first chance to perform everything, and arguably those first people that did it were the pioneers, and we flocked to them because, hey, I could do this too. And we all did. Hey guys! Literally every kid with a Twitter or Instagram account now performs themselves online. It's so natural. It's as natural as breathing. Everyone does it. It's the new normal. Burnham goes on to say,
it's prison. It's horrific. It is performer and audience melded together. What do we want more than to lie in our bed at the end of the day and just watch our life as a satisfied audience member? I know very little about anything, but what I do know is that if you can live your life without an audience, you should do it.
And if that's true, it might explain why so many YouTube personalities, myself included, are flocking to traditional media now. Because the lines between performance and normalcy have blurred, and I really don't envy anyone growing up thinking that that's normal. Now, if you'll excuse me for using fellow YouTubers as examples in this essay, we have a perfect case in point with Zoe Suggs' video, Vlogging at 11 Years Old, Zoella, which she uploaded on 2nd of March 2014. It's a celebration video for hitting a subscriber milestone, and in it, Zoe shows some footage she found of herself at 11 years old vlogging a holiday that the family took. And she is vlogging. This is before vlogging was ever a thing, before we even had a concept of YouTube. But she has this innate understanding that once the camera is on her, she is to perform to it. She knows what to do. She talks to the camera like it's a person.
So this is my bag, and we're going to fill it with stuff that I need to take with me, not clothes, stuff.
She picks it up and shows us stuff around the room. But the thing is, there is no us. 11-year-old Zoe doesn't have an audience, yet there is an innate desire to perform with an intrinsic understanding of how to do it. Now, okay. Am I really gonna try and unravel why a whole generation turned to YouTube to perform their personalities online and why it is so intrinsic? Yes. Specifically, we're asking here, why did people do it before there was any knowledge that it could get you rich and famous? When they were just doing it because they wanted to? Okay, I think I need to warn everyone that we're about to get into some psychoanalysis, and none of the stuff here is fact. It's all theoretical, but we have to start somewhere. Ever since the birth of symbols, humans have attempted, both consciously and subconsciously, to actualize their identities. Language, arguably the first symbol, the first way to make abstract thought palpable, in Lacanian doctrine, it's the basis for which identity is established. It is at that moment in a child's development, when language is introduced, that one finds it provides the subject with a possible point of reference for his own identity. The nature of using symbols to actualize your personal identity boils over into almost everything, and you could say that every creation, every painting, every sentence, it comes from this infantile need to manifest one's elusive self into the world of real things. So I'm going to try and break this down for you guys, because I know some of you probably haven't studied film psychoanalysis before. It basically means that you as a person, you're not really real. You exist in the minds of others. You are just non-tangible thoughts. So you want to put yourself into the real world. And it's why I decorate my room. It's why I write things. It's why I post YouTube videos, because I want there to be a tangible piece of Connie Glynn as a human being out in the world. I need it to be real. Does that make sense? The one thing YouTube vlogs all have in common is a direct address to the other. Hello everybody!
Hello, my name is Joseph.
Hi, my name is Casper.
Hey guys! Hey guys.
Hi. Yo, what is up guys?
At one point, when 11-year-old Zoe Sugg had to pack her camera away, she says directly to the lens,
So, I'll see you on Thursday the 30th of May. Bye bye. Have a safe journey to Portugal. Bye.
This demonstrates how she treats the camera as an other, even with no concept of YouTube or an us. Is this proof that vlogging is an attempt to cement yourself in what Lacan calls the world of real things? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But it's a good start. But there's one big problem with this, and that is you can't control how the viewer perceives you. As is said in Death of the Author, a text's unity lies not in its origin, but in its destination. Meaning that once you create something and put it out into the world, its original meaning is lost, and new meaning is born in the minds of the others. We'll get back to the big other later, don't worry. The birth of the reader must be at the cost of the death of the author. And much the same way with YouTubers, once you put your personality out online, it's at the mercy of any viewer's interpretation. This is why there's so much gossip surrounding YouTubers, and it's why it affects the YouTuber so much when they read this gossip about themselves. And I'm putting themselves in quotation marks because for all of the things I'm gonna say and have said before. But the main point is, it takes control away from the YouTuber. They no longer have the reins on this cantering horse of how their personality and their self is perceived by the other. And that's scary. You spend all this time making these YouTube videos trying to put out a specific idea of yourself, and somebody reads it differently to how you wanted it to be read, and it's scary. The birth of the viewer must be at the cost of the death of the YouTube personality. So I guess the next question is, why do people watch YouTube personality content in the first place? Disregarding the effect of the algorithm, which picks and chooses the content the viewer will see, and I don't think anyone really understands how it works, what you needed was a unique mix of charisma, persistence, and authenticity. And we're not going to get into what authenticity means today because that is going to be too long, but basically all you need to know is that nothing is real and life is a lie. Anyway, what was I? You need a unique mix of charisma, persistence, and authenticity, and also luck, because let's be real, every single YouTuber who's famous just got a bit lucky. But that's all you needed to be a YouTube personality. You didn't need a skill, you didn't need something you were good at, you just needed to be yourself to the maximum degree. A performance of yourself, if you will. Whilst vlogs have become so common and normal that it stopped getting marked as a typo on Microsoft Word, there hasn't really been a lot of research into why they were so popular. There's a lot of like grown-ass men making articles about how like terrible YouTubers are and what's happening to this generation that they're watching this stupid content. But no one's really thought to look at why that is. What was so appealing? Because it was very appealing. The most obvious answer is, and we're gonna bring out Lacan's the big other.
That's what she said.
Told you we'd get back to the other. In short, the big other is like a chorus in a play. They experience emotions for you. They weep, they laugh. Your emotions are taken charge of by the healthy order displayed on the stage. The chorus takes care of them. The emotional commentary is done for you. You live vicariously through them without actually having to do anything. If we're subscribing to this idea, then the other is switched around here. When a YouTuber is performing, it is to the other, but when a viewer is watching a YouTuber, then the YouTuber is the other. But social media offered a whole new level to the passive consumer, a chance to no longer be passive. Forgive me, for I'm about to quote Zizek, but he makes a really good point here. He posits that passivity has become into passivity in the technological era, where you're offered a chance to interact with what you consume. The other side of this interactivity is into passivity, the obverse of interacting with the object, instead of just passively following the show, is the situation in which the object itself takes from me, deprives me of my own passivity, so that it is the object itself that enjoys the show instead of me relieving me of the duty to enjoy myself. This is from Zizek's How to Read Lacan, so he's building on Lacanian theory here. Lacan was a very, very old school psychoanalyst. A clear example of what Zizek says there is the act of subscribing, a straightforward step in being involved with the content. The YouTube personality relies on the other, and the other relies on them in turn. You can no longer be passive. You have power. You are involved. Interpassive. This explains why the mechanics were appealing, but what about the content itself? A lot of YouTube personality content could easily be called inane, and I should know, I've made a lot of it. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just curious that it became so popular. A Vice article from 2014 states about one famous YouTuber that it's difficult to really pinpoint what his videos are about because, as with most vloggers, they're not really about anything. But what they fail to understand is it's exactly that relatability found in the seemingly ordinary that made the YouTube personality take off in the first place. There was always an element of familiarity. Maybe the YouTuber had the same interests as you. Maybe they were in the same demographic. Who knows? But there had to be relatability and it had to feel real. The first major problem with this came with the money. Don't you love how capitalism ruins everything, but also we need money to survive? So you can't win. A lot of people replied to the Golden Age tweet saying that they preferred it when YouTubers were just doing it for fun before they got noticeably rich. So people watched YouTubers because they were relatable and ordinary. It was the fabulous mundane. And this was valuable. And most importantly, it was profitable. And that's where the brands come in. Every brand wants to appear authentic. And when the first big brands came into YouTube, and I don't know, let's say Coca-Cola wanted to work with someone, and the YouTuber thinks to themselves, oh my god, I can't believe they want to work with me. They're such a huge name. But here's the truth. Brands like Coca-Cola, they aren't real. The drink is real, but the brand itself only really exists in our minds. They need these authentic, real people, these YouTubers, to cling onto and make themselves a part of that world. These brands forked out huge sums of money to align themselves with different YouTube personalities. And that was it. YouTube personalities became quantifiable. They became a commodity. They were valuable. You could see how much they were worth. You could see how much their interaction was worth. It's not for fun anymore. It's a job. And even if they still find it fun, even with the best of intentions, the YouTube personality became a commodity. And let's be frank here, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. I've done many brand deals myself. I know that YouTubers try their best to only work with brands that they really like, that they really think their audience will engage with. But there is always going to be a niggling speck of lost integrity because they needed to be relatable for the spell to work. And let's be real, the average ordinary person is not getting paid to be themselves. The problem with the money is it resulted in better equipment, better cameras, better lighting, better editing. At first, it was experimental, YouTubers testing the boundaries of what they could create. But eventually, as with most communities, they developed their own language, a specific cookie-cutter way of editing and filming that became normal. So what is the vlogging formula? What became common and normal practice in creating a YouTube vlog? So much so that it changed the way that we created and consumed this content. One YouTuber who is definitely not real, but provides a perfect example of this formula, is Barbie. Barbie Vlogs is a set of 3D animated vlog-style videos starring Barbie. Sidonie Smith and Julia Watson, when discussing authentic, they said it was in relation to how such things ought to look, sound, and feel. And we can clearly see within these Barbie vlogs the mannerisms that have been adopted by the vlogging community as the natural way to perform the self on YouTube. So much so that they have become what one expects they ought to be doing when they vlog. The methodologies adopted by the people who create Barbie vlogs are exactly the same as those used by the regular YouTuber. You have jump cuts, direct address to camera, soft lighting. At some point along the path of experimentation and amateur creation, a set of rules were formed, and the problem was that meant that vlogging became self-aware. People began to expect a certain level of production, a certain way of behaving, and with these rules, the content became stale, formulaic, and inauthentic. No more fake or real than Barbie vlogs. And now, even the not rich and famous YouTubers, the ones who are just starting out, they adopt these same vlogging formula rules. So this takes us to the last issue. If you take the money out of it, if you take the authenticity out of it, most importantly, when a YouTube personality performs themselves online, there is one step that you never see, Editing. An opportunity to edit yourself to be the best version of you, you to the maximum degree. A performance of your best self. Now I'm going to draw on a film theory concept here because I think it translates really well into the vlogging world, and that is the idea that the screen is a mirror. The reality mimed in the cinema is first of all that of a self. It's kind of a poncy long way of explaining how and why we live vicariously through films, much in the same way this essay is trying to understand YouTube personality-dom. That's the word. The problem is that this concept comes from a group of ideas that rely on apparatus. Baudry, when he came up with this idea, theorized that to create the perfect environment for living through the other was immature power of mobility and precocious maturation of visual organization. Why are all the male film theorists such poncy bastards? Like, you can say it way simpler than that. I know you need to reach a word count, but like, come on. You don't need to say it like that. Make your work accessible. Sorry, that's another essay I need to write. The inaccessibility of academics. So what he's saying basically is that to live vicariously through the film screen, you need to be in a dark room, watching a big projection, confined to your seat. And he believed that this experience would be ruined for the viewer if they ever became aware of the apparatus used to make the film, the apparatus being things like the camera, the lighting, the director, you know, the stuff that makes the film. The apparatus. This obviously isn't true of the YouTube vlog because you're already aware of the apparatus. You are the camera it's being performed to. Instead, the apparatus that the vlogger must conceal is the effort, the lighting, the setup, the editing, the deletion of repeated phrases, everything to make it seem more real. The vlogger's mission is to make the normalcy of their lives seem effortlessly less ordinary. But if one were to stop the video and turn the camera around, you'd see huge lighting setups and all the effort that went into creating a backdrop to represent their personality. Hey, did you notice how I always put Disney things in the background? Because that's how I'm showing you guys that we relate to each other. All of this is preparation that you guys don't see to manifest an idealistic idea of ordinary. Back in the prime of the YouTube personality, you'd hunt around on YouTube to find a perfect version of yourself, a glossy that could be me to live vicariously through. It made the new generation feel like their own normalcy was valid and important and worth listening to. That was until they could just do it themselves. Monkey see, monkey do, and we're right back to square one. The pioneers of the YouTube personality paved the way, and then every kid with a phone was like, hey, I actually can do that too. It wasn't you anymore, and you didn't need them to build your ideal you. You could do that yourself, or you could certainly try to. And in everyone doing this, they also realized that maybe it wasn't quite as real as it seemed to be. So what do you do when you grow out of something, when you don't need it anymore? You move on. You move on. You grow up and you grow out of things, and that's fine. So we're back at our first thought. What happened to Noodlerella? What happened to the flourishing and exciting world of the YouTube personality? They became unnecessary. People just didn't need them anymore. People might still enjoy them and people might still watch them, but the original spark, the excitement of this new set of ideals, the glossy ordinary and performing the mundane, it was gone. So the YouTube personality in the span of 5 years went from new, needed, and relatable to formulaic, unnecessary, and unrelatable. I suppose I feel similarly about Noodlerella. She was my YouTube personality and she's become obsolete.